How's everyone doing? Welcome to Easy Music Center. My name is Billy Reichling, and I work over at the Pearl City store. And I was offered to do this clinic to maybe shed some light on how to approach lead guitar theory. Like in a lot of jam situations, people get locked into like a certain box or a scale pattern, and it's like, what else can I do with this? Or, not know how to break outside of that, or wonder how other players really play all over the entire neck without any, basically without any, without ever getting stomped or coming into any kind of a rut. And I always had a problem with that growing up, because I'm from the old school of Ace Frehley. You just kind of stay right in there, and you're pretty in a pretty safe place. So that's where I started. Then getting into players like Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, seeing them cover every square inch of the neck, I'm like, how the heck do they do that? And I've kind of, over the years, not developed my own approach, but at least approach I understand to where it's not so technical in a way that you really have to necessarily know a lot of scales. I'm just kind of giving you an easier way to remember them. I'll start out with just showing you a little bit of what I do, and then I'll go from there, show you some styles and answer some questions for you if you have any. But yeah, I'm just going to try to do a little improv thing here. So that's a little bit of thank you. That's a little bit of like an example of kind of like an off-the-cuff thing, to where obviously I was sticking within one parameter of a particular mode, but I can show you that everywhere I went on the neck in that example, technically I was only playing one scale. I was in the key of G major, and they're in a particular mode. Does anyone here know what modes are at all? No. Okay, one way to explain modes, try not to get intimidated by it. The hardest thing about remembering the modes is probably just memorizing the names, because after a while, when you start getting familiar with the way modes sound, then you'll start to recognize them within your playing, and then the floodgates open, and then your creativity really starts to flow. But how I go about doing it is, I know when I was a teenager, a lot of the times I'd get these scale books, like, yeah, I'm going to learn a bunch of scales, and I'm going to become a lead guitar player, and I look at this book, and there's like thousands and thousands of scales. And the mistake I made was to approach them like you would approach learning chords, trying to remember them as all like separate patterns and exact fingerings and whatnot, which in a way is kind of impossible to memorize that many scales in the sense of that many variations of scales. I would think that one particular way a scale is played, that was the way the scale was played, where in fact, if you played a regular major scale on a piano, it would occur in the same place. C major would just go C to C, right up the line, all white keys, boom, 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 until you reach the octave. Where on a guitar, you can approach that same scale in many different positions on the neck. If you wanted a middle C scale, you can play it in many different places and play the same exact notes. So the way I kind of like condensed it to where there was less I had to remember, my whole strategy is approaching it from just 7 basic scale patterns, which are not really different scales. They're one scale, the major scale. It's just there's 7 different positions. Once you learn the 7 positions and learn how to shift between those positions and whatnot, then your scale knowledge becomes kind of infinite, in a sense that you only have to remember 7 positions. Now, let me hand this out. The way I approach it, let me just try and explain it. I approach the scale patterns as a 3-note per string scale pattern. If I learn it 3 notes per string, that's only one pattern I have to remember. It's always going to be that way. And it's a G major scale. And this starts as the Ionian Mode. Does anyone know why there's 7 particular keys or 7 particular chords in a key, like basic chords? If you're in a key, there's usually 7 basic chords. It's variations on it, but why there are 7 different chords in a particular key? They're built off of the modes. And the best way I can explain modes are, if you take a major scale, which has the name of Ionian, the 3-note per string approach would be this. If you were to just get it in your ear, it would sound like this. All right, everyone knows the major scale, right? Do, re, mi, fa. Now what I do is I take that pattern and I just follow the 7 notes and just continue it 3 notes per string, and I don't necessarily end on the last note of the scale. I just do 3 notes per string until I run out of notes. So that would go like this. You can clearly hear that it doesn't necessarily sound like a major scale because I'm shooting past it. So when I reach the octave, it starts over, right? And then there's 3 more notes after that, so I just those notes are there just to complete it. Now, you can build a chord off of that. Now, how you do that, if you play the root, 3rd, and the 5th note, basically meaning the 1st note of the scale, the 3rd note of the scale, and the 5th note of the scale, that gives you a G major chord. So if you play G, B, and D, that gives you G major. Now, the reason why that's important in terms of direct relation to the scale, that chord is what is going to define what the mode sounds like. So I'll let you hear what that mode sounds like. The G Ionian Mode, which is the natural major scale, tends to have like a very happy, uplifting kind of a sound. That's the melody that kind of comes across. So if I drone a G chord, I'll just drone a G chord. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to play B over that same exact scale. I'm not going to change that pattern. I'll show you what I get. Now, does that sound different? I wasn't playing a different scale at all. It's the same exact 7 notes. What makes it different is the chord I'm playing. Now you have 7 chords in this particular key, and to go through straight down the line, to go through all the different modes, you learn the 7 positions. I learned the 7 positions and I called them mode positions just so that there was less for me to remember. Technically, if you have these 7 positions, they're not really. If you're playing an Ionian mode, you can play any of these 7 positions and not be stuck into one pattern, because any of these 7 positions are the same exact 7 notes. But knowing that you're in the right key and everything, you don't have to think about it. All you have to know is you have 7 different options in terms of that chord. It's just the way the chord is built around the scale. Now I memorize them in mode names just so that I know where the root is of the mode and I can kind of get the mode scale in my ear. But once I'm playing, I'm not thinking about the mode positions. I'm just kind of going for broke. Now, when you go right down the line, in terms of the mode scales, when you go right down the line, all a mode is the next mode would be the 2nd scale degree of the major scale, which is the Dorian mode. All it is the same scale, just starting from the 2nd note. So rather and we're in the key of G major in this example, rather than going from G to G, you're starting from the A. Same exact 7 notes, you're going from A to A, but in the major scale. So now it's going to sound like this. Now I memorize that in this position right here. Now what do I do to build a chord? Root, 3rd, 5th, which is the A, the C, and the E. And that gives me an A minor, which has this kind of a sound. As you can see, I can use any of the 7 3-note per string patterns that I use because it comprises the same 7 notes. But what defines the melody of the particular mode is the chord notes you're accenting. So one analogy, if you can look at this, if you can maybe pass this around. If you want a copy of this, just leave me your email at the end of the clinic and I'll gladly email it to you. But the way I have this broken down, the way I have it broken down is I'm showing you the 3-note per string patterns, and I've highlighted the root, 3rd, and the 5th note in all those patterns.